I'll be honest with you. I thought I was about to lose one of my favorite fish. This wasn't a random fish I'd picked up last week. This was a fish I'd had for years, one I'd raised from a juvenile, one that had seen me through all sorts of tank changes. And suddenly it was hanging near the surface, gasping, looking sluggish and ignoring food. If you've ever been in that situation, you know the pit in your stomach. You start thinking about what you could have done differently, whether you missed something, whether you're about to lose a pet you've cared for day in and day out. Let me make a quick pause to invite you to join over 1,000 fish aficionados to our weekly cool and quick fish facts. Just go to aquariumsource.com/subscribe. I promise it won't smell fishy. Really, who teaches you about the honey gourami with a Brad Pitt gif? Now, normally, when fish keepers see this, they reach for chemicals, medications, quick fixes, bottles of stuff that promise to cure everything under the sun. And I don't blame them. When you feel desperate, you want to do something right away. I've been there too. But this time, instead of reaching for the medicine cabinet, I tried something completely different. A weird little trick I'd heard about but honestly never thought much of. No chemicals, no expensive products, nothing fancy. Just a simple change that turned the situation around within hours. And I couldn't believe how well it worked. So here's what happened. The tank looked fine at first glance. Water was clear, parameters tested okay, filter was running. But something just wasn't right. The fish weren't eating. They were hanging in corners, not their usual active selves. If you're like me, that kind of thing gnaws at you because you know your fish better than anyone else. You know when they're off, even if the test kit says everything's perfect. That's when I remembered this trick. I decided to try it, partly because I didn't want to dump in random chemicals and stress the fish more, and partly because I figured, what do I have to lose? I dropped in an extra air stone and cranked up the surface agitation. Within an hour, I could see a difference. The fish that had been gasping at the surface swam back down, colors started to brighten, and by the next morning, it was like nothing had happened. That fish, and the rest of the tank, looked better than they had in weeks. So what's the trick? It's oxygen. Boosting oxygen is the weird, overlooked lifesaver. And once I started paying attention to it, I realized how many tanks silently struggle because of low oxygen. We all obsess over ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, pH, hardness, all those numbers you can test. But here's the thing. Your fish can't survive more than a couple of minutes without oxygen. It is the single most important thing in that tank, and yet it's the one parameter most of us don't measure, don't think about, and don't talk about nearly enough. Let me break down why this matters so much. Water holds dissolved oxygen, and your fish rely on it just like we rely on air. But here's the catch. Warm water holds less oxygen. So in the summer, or if your heater is running a little high, oxygen levels drop. On top of that, bacteria in your filter use oxygen to break down waste. Algae blooms consume oxygen. Overfeeding adds organic matter that breaks down and steals oxygen from the system. It's like your tank is running an invisible oxygen budget, and if that budget goes into the red, your fish are the first ones to suffer. Here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes fish in a low oxygen tank don't look bad right away. They don't keel over instantly. Instead, they become sluggish, their colors dull, they stop eating, or they hang near the filter outlet or the water surface. These are all subtle signs that oxygen is running low. And if you miss them, one day you wake up to fish gasping at the top, or worse. That's why adding oxygen is such a powerful fix. It gives your fish immediate relief. It's not curing parasites, it's not fixing ammonia poisoning, but it is buying time, reducing stress, and keeping them alive while you figure out the real root cause. In my case, oxygen wasn't just buying time, it was the solution. The tank looked stable, but something in there had been eating up oxygen, and once I boosted aeration, everything bounced back. Let me give you a couple of other examples where this trick works like magic. One summer, during a brutal heat wave, one of my tanks started losing fish overnight. I checked the water, no ammonia, no nitrite. Nitrates were fine. It didn't make sense. Then it hit me. The water was warmer than usual, and warmer water simply holds less oxygen. The fish weren't dying from toxins, they were suffocating. I added extra air stones, turned up circulation, and immediately stopped losing fish. Problem solved. Another time, a tank of mine had a sudden green water algae bloom. If you've ever had that, you know how discouraging it looks. But what most people don't realize is that algae breathe too. And at night, when the lights are off, algae suck oxygen out of the water. My fish were stressed because the algae were competing with them for air. Extra oxygenation carried them through until I could clear the bloom. Even during treatments, oxygen is a lifesaver. Many medications reduce dissolved oxygen levels in the water. Fish that are already weak can't handle the double stress of meds plus low oxygen. So before I medicate any tank now, I always make sure the surface is agitated, air stones are running, and oxygen is plentiful. It's a safety net that gives the treatment a better chance of working. Now, let's talk about how to actually do this. The first and easiest step is to make sure your filter outlet is breaking the surface of the water. A gentle ripple is good, but in emergencies, don't be afraid to lower the water line so the filter makes more of a splash. That splash is oxygen exchange. The second step is to add air stones. Air stones are cheap, reliable, and they can make a huge difference in how comfortable your fish are. I recommend having at least one running in every tank, and a spare pump on hand for emergencies. The third step is water movement. Power heads, circulation pumps, even just adjusting your filter flow so dead spots get stirred up, all of these keep oxygen evenly distributed. Here's a tip I wish I'd known sooner. If you ever transport fish or keep them in a bucket during cleaning, drop an air stone in there. Even a 5-gallon bucket can run out of oxygen shockingly fast. I've seen fish decline in holding containers simply because they didn't have aeration. A small battery-powered air pump can literally save the day if you move fish around often. Now, some of you might be thinking, isn't this too simple? Is oxygen really that big of a deal? And my answer is yes. It's simple, but it's the foundation of everything else. It's like saying, do humans really need air? We can talk about diet, vitamins, exercise, but without oxygen, none of it matters. Same thing with fish. You can have perfect nitrate levels and pristine pH, but if your oxygen is crashing, you're fighting a losing battle. The beauty of this trick is that it never makes things worse. Unlike chemicals, which can have side effects, overdoses, or interactions, oxygen is just oxygen. You're not adding anything unnatural. You're just giving your tank more of what it needs to thrive. And the fish respond fast. That's what makes it such a powerful first step. These days, oxygen is one of the first things I think about whenever a tank looks off. Fish acting weird? Add oxygen. Heat wave? Add oxygen. Starting a new treatment? Add oxygen. Algae bloom? Add oxygen. It doesn't fix every problem, but it buys you time, reduces stress, and often reveals what's really going on. So the weird trick that saved my fish wasn't a secret potion or a magic chemical. It was simply boosting oxygen. And now, I rely on it all the time. No chemicals, no mystery products, just better conditions. And honestly, it's made me rethink a lot about fish keeping. We focus so much on what's in the water, chemistry, additives, fertilizers, but sometimes it's the invisible stuff like oxygen that really determines whether your fish live or die. If you've never tried this before, do yourself a favor and set up some backup aeration. Have a spare pump and air stone ready, even if you don't run it every day. Think of it like a fire extinguisher. You hope you don't need it, but when you do, it can save everything. So next time your fish looks stressed and you're tempted to dump in a bottle of chemicals, try this weird little trick first. Add oxygen. It might just be the simplest, safest, and fastest way to save your fish, the same way it saved mine. If you've had a similar experience, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Have you ever seen extra aeration make a huge difference in your tank? Share your story, because the more we talk about it, the more people realize just how powerful this trick really is. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more practical, no-nonsense fish keeping tips. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.